can go ahead and open the public hearing for the liquor license renewal. We have an audience here. Does anyone have any comments on the renewal of the liquor license for Frank's Stop? We haven't had any issues that we're on our own.
None at all.
Okay. That being said, can we close the public hearing portion?
Should we close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. We'll open the selectmen's meeting. And can I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 20th, 2012?
I make a motion we approve the minutes of December 20th, 2012.
Second.
All in favor of approval? May I have a motion to sign the warrants?
You want to vote on the renewal?
Oh, okay. All right. Let's. May I have a motion for approval of the liquor license for Frank's Dockside?
Make a motion to renew the license for
Okay.
Frank's Dockside. Second motion.
All in favor? Okay. There's one piece that they do have to bring up on this, and this is a diagram of the deck, because they do serve food and drink out there. But John will call and talk to them about that. I'm sure it was just an oversight on their part. While this is going around, can we have a motion to sign the warrants?
I make a motion we sign the warrants.
Second motion.
All in favor? Isn't there usually a one in between?
Because of the holidays, we
Okay.
combine with them.
Okay, okay,
We would have to do a warrant 2 days after registration, so we with it.
okay. We usually have a third warrant for
B&B.
B&B, and there's not one this time. Okay. John, do you want to start with old business?
We haven't approved the minutes yet.
Yes.
We
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did?
Minutes
Okay.
first.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're back on track now.
We're back on track.
Never
In the last meeting, we talked about a discussion that I had with Barb Salito and Nick Hodgkins on a possible brownfield application for the Columbian factory site. Nick said that he would be able to attend this selectmen's meeting and address the board and talk about the brownfield application and answer any questions that the board may have. And he is here tonight, so I'd like to ask him to...
Welcome.
Welcome, Nick.
Thank you.
Come right up. Grab a chair and...
All right in the middle here, so we have a
Okay.
quote.
Thank you to John for asking back, and thank you to the board for having me.
Let's do introductions. Sarah McConnell,
James Jones. Justin Dorn.
Michael Scrivani.
Morning, Glidden.
And as Betty Case, she's down clerk.
She's everything. The organizer.
Well, this morning I was at a meeting in Machias with the Washington County Development Authority and met Jim Day. And at lunchtime I was at a meeting with the Washington County Council of Governments Brownfields Committee and was there with Ken Day. So I've already had a lot of talk about Lubec today.
Yeah.
So that's good. I guess I can start by telling you what my involvement has been with the Columbian factory down here on the waterfront. A few years back, we received the Maine Department of Environmental Protection received a application, or actually the Washington County Council of Governments received an application for some brownfields assessment assistance. At the time, the committee at WCCOG, had only so much money, and they had some priorities that they thought were probably better projects for them to work on. So they asked if the state, we also had some brownfields money, would be willing to look at this. At that time, I talked to Ron Pichet, who was the president of the Historical Society at the time, got him to make application to our program, and we accepted it and got to work. We had our consultant come out. Our consultant was GEI, actually out of Portland, Maine now. They're out of Falmouth at the time. They came out and did a phase 1, which basically is all the paperwork, research, history, stuff like that, to figure out what had gone on at the property and what potential environmental issues might be there. Later on that summer, it was summer of 2011, I went out with GEI and we did the phase 2 work, which is basically when we start putting holes in the ground and taking samples of dirt, groundwater, stuff like that. We also took some samples at that time of some of the building materials of the old Columbian factory, concerns for asbestos, materials like that. Once we got the results back of all that, we found we had a few concerns at the site. Nothing really that terrible, nothing that really required any imminent actions. But certainly things that should be taken care of, at some point in time, or it would be good if they were taken care of at some point in time. And one of our overriding concerns too, with so many of these old facilities, is the physical hazard. The physical hazard there is far greater than anything else. It's as we say in brownfields, it's certainly an attractive nuisance, the type of place that kids and people want to go hang around in. So we had some concerns about that, which was just someone getting physically hurt, not really concerned about the exposures they may get from the contaminants. We had GEI also do what we call a feasibility study on the property. Once we had the data to say we have some contamination here and we have this issue, what potential type remedial actions could be taken to address these issues and how much would those costs be? And basically, they analyzed 3 different types of action. One was a no action, which is we're not going to do anything. Those are always part of the assessment process, but really that wasn't a very good option. There were a couple of other options they put out there. One was removal of everything and haul it all away, and the third option was somewhere in between. Remove materials you need to remove for disposal, but keep some on site and perhaps do some capping. And maybe demolish the property in place, or the old factory. Once we had a chance to look at those, I had some discussions. This summer I came up and spoke with Ron regarding the potential for doing a brownfields application to EPA to get cleanup money, remedial funds. And we kind of started along that process, discussed it some. During that whole process too, it came to my attention that when the Historical Society took possession of the property, when they acquired the property, at that time they didn't do what was called due diligence. There's a whole due diligence thing that's part of environmental, when you're acquiring properties, et cetera, where you look and say, well, do we have issues? Do we have reason to think we might be taking on a liability? That wasn't done at the time. It wasn't a terribly common practice at the time when they took the property. Certainly not for a non-profit, looking at something like that. So the unfortunate thing about that is, after we started kind of down the road of looking and saying, well, what can we do to put together an application for brownfields grants, and they always have application periods somewhere in the fall, somewhere between September and November they do. We got looking at that. I said, why don't we hold up a sec? I talked to my colleagues down at Region 1 at EPA and said, here's the thing we've got. They didn't do any due diligence when they acquired the property. They said, well, that's not gonna pass threshold criteria. Basically, the regions, there are 10 regions of US EPA around the country, and each region gets all of the applications from, we had like 32 in Maine this year. They get all the applications from their region, and Region 1's New England states. And they look at them just to see if they pass the threshold criteria. If they don't send them anywhere else for evaluation. So we were in a situation where at the time of the application, the time we send that application in, we had to have an owner of the property that would be eligible. And because they didn't do due diligence when they acquired this property, the Historical Society was not an eligible applicant. So understanding we wouldn't pass the threshold criteria, I suggested maybe we put it on hold this year and maybe look into discussing this with the town. So what happened is, in December, I came up and spoke with John, spoke with Barbara, the new president, of course, of the Historical Society, and said, let's find a way forward here that we might be able to do something with this property. It seems like it's in the best interest of the Historical Society, certainly, but also of the town, to kind of put this nuisance to bed, and maybe do some other things, as it were. To make an application for cleanup funding to EPA and their annual brownfields funding every year, we needed an entity that was either a nonprofit or a municipality. Historical Society passed the nonprofit side of the test, but the problem was they hadn't done their due diligence. With our phase 1 that was done on the property, with the phase 2 work was done, the due diligence part has essentially been done for this property. Now we would have to do a phase 1 update, because that phase 1 is over 180 days old, that basically would say, did anything happen since the last time that might cause an environmental concern? Probably not. But that would need to be done. And at that point, once that's done, then someone else acquiring the property would pass the muster for the due diligence test. In this case, we don't have, we're going from a nonprofit, and like I said, the other folks that are eligible would be municipalities. We saw an opportunity here to say, well, maybe this is an opportunity for the town to work with the Historical Society to try to move forward to get some funding to clean the site up, to tear down the building, to reestablish the shorefront there, and maybe do larger things. I don't know what the vision of the town would be for that area in the future, if there would be something more than just having it lie, as shorefront, or if there would be something greater. So, and that's not what I do, but certainly from from my perspective and what I do, I think that the town will make a great applicant here. I think that Lubec is in a good position to compete well on the national level for cleanup funds. This is what we would call a shovel-ready project, in that, if we get the money, I'm sure everyone would like to start as soon as possible. And there are a lot of reasons. I think it would be could be a real positive thing. We also like to look at how, when we are working on a site, how can we make the remedial actions work together with perhaps redevelopment plans. How can we spend the money once? Maybe accomplish 2 goals by spending the money once. EPA is not opposed to that.
Wow.
There are ways that we could probably look at something like that if the town had some visions of things that they wanted to do. Quite frankly, from the public health and environmental hazard side of things, when I mean from contaminants, etc., this site